What we found is when we did the analysis, people that were using Swipe Red, they were able to get 8 times more volunteers because your friend is asking you to get involved.
I'm Eric Wilson, Managing Partner of Startup Caucus, an investment fund and incubator for Republican campaign technology. Welcome to the Business of Politics show. On this podcast, we bring you into conversation with the entrepreneurs who build best-in-class political businesses, the funders who provide the capital, and the operatives who put it all together to win campaigns. We're talking today with Lisa Schneegans, who founded Buzz360, a political software company that gives campaigns and political organizations the power to better engage their supporters. By way of disclosure, Startup Caucus is an investor in Buzz360. In today's show, we discuss Lisa's journey into politics as a second career, the science of relational organizing, and insights into software sales. Lisa, before starting Buzz360, you had another successful software company that was acquired by SAP. So what motivated, or should I say possessed you to start something up in the political industry?
Yeah, well, it's a long story actually, but so we did have another software company that we sold to SAP, and after we sold that company, we decided we liked helping small businesses a lot with technology, and so we built version 1 of our platform, and we were actually working with a fundraiser that in the political arena. And he saw that product and he said, this would be perfect for campaigns or party units. So we actually talked to the Republican Party, the chair of the Republican Party in Minnesota at the time, and he agreed the product was perfect for those state races and the local party units. And so that's kind of how we started. It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. So how has it been going for you? What's been the biggest surprise?
Well, it's been going like any startup. You have ups and downs, and there's no way of getting around it. We started when we started building. We did a lot of research before we built Swipe Red, and that product was just ready for general release in the February-March timeframe of 2020 when COVID hit. That, I have to tell you, was one of the lows because nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody knew if anybody was going to be buying technology. Nobody knew if they were going to be donating. And we're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, we just invested all this time and money in this new product. But it was a very good cycle for us. And 2022 is shaping up to be a good season. So we're looking forward to that.
Aside from COVID, which no one predicted, what else has surprised you?
What has surprised me is the political arena is really a tight-knit circle to get involved in. And so as a newcomer, it's really tough to get into that circle because especially sitting in Minnesota when a lot of the activity is out in the East Coast and DC and all that. But the Startup Caucus has really been a great help in that regard. In the commercial market, it's very different because there's all kinds of things, user groups and partner meetings and vendor shows. And a partnership is much easier to forge in the commercial business than it is in the political. So that has been surprising to me.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I talk about with Startup Caucus all the time is our challenge isn't necessarily technology or money. It's culture. And bringing entrepreneurs and campaigns and decision makers together. That's often the hardest thing to do. So let's spend some time now, Lisa, talking about relational organizing, which is the underlying concept behind your product, Swipe Red. What does it actually mean and how are campaigns using it?
Well, relational organizing is really very simple because it's all based on what we do every single day. We talk to friends and families and, people that we know about things that matter, right? So relational organizing is really nothing more than that at the very core. A campaign would look at their people that are involved in their campaign, the people that are in their community, ask them to reach out to their friends and family about a message. And that's really how it goes, whether that it's a simple call or email or text messages. You can get in a chat with people that you know and friends. And those are the people that you influence more than anyone.
So it's the data pairing of, we're really good at targeting the right voters with the right message. And we're starting to be better about the right medium. And now with relational organizing tech, we're able to make sure that's the right messenger.
Yep. And how are campaigns using it? We had a governor's race in 2020 that came on 10 days left before the election. And within 2 days, he had hundreds of people downloading our app and thousands of messages were being shared out to friends and family for the Get Out to Vote effort. That was just amazing to me because it was so fast. Another one, there's a couple of them that I really like. One was we had a couple of local candidates and they were going to do canvassing. And we had put swipe red messages out with our peer-to-peer texting in that product. And the messages were, hey, Sandra is going to be in your neighborhood. Ask her what she thinks about school choice. So that message would go out at the same time as they were door knocking that precinct. Mm-hmm. And so you really got 2 hits at that same person at the door.
And we also have really good data that shows just how important this is in get out the vote and mobilizing voters. And one of those reasons goes to what we call contactability, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason why, for example, polling is getting so expensive is because response rates to phone calls and text messages are going down. And so we see this cycle over cycle where, contact rate with voters, despite the fact that we've got better data than ever before, is just going down. And so we have to make sure that we're talking to voters from people that they actually will respond to. So, a message coming from me to a friend is got a better chance of getting a response than just a robocall or, my iPhone even says when something's a political call or a polling call now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and we all know with technology like Ring and Nest, you see who's at your door and how many times are you going to open the door to somebody you don't even know? It's really a cold call. It's a cold outreach. And I mean, like you said about your phone, I get spam calls all the time and my phone identifies them. If it's my son or my brother or my neighbor or my friend, I'll pick up that phone or I'll text them back where I might not to the never-ending flow of text messages that I get.
Lisa, why do you think the Democrats have been more aggressive in adopting relational organizing technology than Republicans have been?
Boy, that's a real good question, Eric. My opinion is really twofold. One is the Democrats have invested just a ton of money into relational, and you know it as well as I do with the Higher Ground Labs and the DCCC and even the National Democratic Training Committee. They're all investing time and energy into relational organizing. Democrats also, they understand that this is a long game. This isn't just about this election. So they want to build those relationships. And even if you look at Stacey Abrams, and you're going to watch it again in Georgia, right? She's built a whole blueprint about relational organizing and how to get people involved. And I think Republicans are just a little more hesitant about that. And they look at it as, I've got to win this election. And it's not a long game. It is truly, I have to win this race. And I think we don't want to create a movement. We just want to win the race.
Right. And I think another aspect of it just has to do with the difference in terms of campaigns, right? So Republican campaigns typically are more consultant driven. They're more sort of top-down commercial enterprises, whereas Democratic campaigns are more, I don't want to say grassroots, but they definitely have more volunteers in general, right? With people who are used to knocking on doors, making phone calls, I guess a better activist class, right?
Sure. Yep.
And so that is certainly an untapped resource for a lot of campaigns on the left, whereas Republicans, we do have to spend a lot of time recruiting volunteers, say, hey, as important as posting on Facebook is, we actually need you to make some text messages and calls and talk to real voters.
And to that regard, Eric, in 2020, what we found is when we did the analysis, people that were using Swipe Red, they were able to get 8 times more volunteers because your friend is asking you to get involved.
You're listening to the Business of Politics show. I'm speaking with Lisa Schneegans, who runs Buzz360, one of our Startup Caucus portfolio companies, and they are building apps to help Republicans tap into the latest campaign tactics. Lisa, what does a campaign need to do in order to tap into the power of relational organizing?
The first thing that they have to do is really take a look at their team and have their team members, whether it's their area coordinators or just the people on their core team, put together a map kind of who are the networks that you can influence. And that you don't need the software to do that. Any campaign could do that. Where can you start influencing the most people? And that's really where it starts. And then when you use technology, obviously technology helps you measure things. It's more scalable. It's more measurable. You can reach a lot of people faster. But the first thing you need to do is look at who are the people that I can influence, and everyone on your team, and set up those area coordinators throughout your state or your district you're trying to influence, and make sure that you have goals for them to reach. With the technology that we have, we can take a look at your target audience and who are the people on your phone that you're going to try to influence that can match those people in the target audience. And those are the first ones we should go to, because that's what the campaign wants to reach first. Then you set up those area coordinators. We're just introducing teams where you can have a team now. And those are the people that you're going to have to influence others. So we can measure it much better now than we ever could before. If you do door knocking, when you hit a door, it's considered a voter contact. Whether you talk to somebody, whether it's an impactful discussion, but you count that as a voter contact. Where for us, we can measure, did the volunteer actually send the message to them? And then they can actually share people back to the campaign that are most likely to be persuadable.
So campaigns really need to be more open to their volunteers and grassroots if they really want to embrace the power of relational organizing.
You do.
And so I want to shift gears for just a minute, Lisa. How is software sales in politics different from what you experienced in the more commercial software sales space?
Man, it's very different. And I did not know this going into it. With political sales, first off, there's a much higher sense of urgency when we get closer to the election. And, it's like the store, like a retail business, and the store is open one day. So you're building for that one day. And it's very different because you never really know who the decision maker is. I can be reaching out to a campaign who I think I have the right person. All of a sudden they say, well, I don't make this decision. And you don't know. It's not like you have a CEO or a CFO that you're going after. You never know who the decision maker is. There's all kinds of things in the commercial market. You can tell if you're impacting sales. With political, the only thing I have to measure is, did my candidate win or not? And did my technology really make the difference? I can show you all kinds of numbers, but has that really persuaded the voter to get out to the poll and mark Eric Wilson for dog catcher? We don't really know.
And, one thing I always tell entrepreneurs, and I've given you this advice before, but, the candidate spouse never appears on any sort of campaign org chart that you would see at like a leadership institute training, but they can often be one of your most important allies or adversaries on a campaign and have huge decision-making power.
I'm working on swipe right is being used on a campaign right now that the candidate and his significant other, they're working the campaign together. So oftentimes you don't know where the decision is being made. And you better involve that spouse or that significant other into that decision making.
So does this different approach to software sales hurt or help campaigns?
Oh, that's a good one to ask. I actually think it actually could help them, because I think that there's some real growth opportunities in campaigns. And we're seeing it right now with the way our culture is changing. We need to start looking at things differently. So I think maybe it would help them to start looking at things. How are we going to measure this? And how are we going to perform?
Certainly makes things difficult for entrepreneurs who are trying to sell things. Yep. But every campaign is its own experiment, and no two are exactly alike. And so, over time, you get sort of these learnings and takeaways from the way that they're done.
The other thing, and I just want to mention this, is that there's so many different players in the political market. You could have a general consultant, you can have a campaign manager, and they might have competing goals that might not be the best for the candidate to win. So that's something I've noticed too. So it's a challenging market. What's
one lesson you've had to learn the hard way that you could share with another founder as a sort of shortcut?
Yes, we talk about this a lot at Buzz360, is that, you were selling to a startup. And if you read the success magazines on how to make a successful business, they'll tell you not to sell to startups. Well, we sell to startups every single day when we start with a campaign, because a campaign is much like a startup business, right? You have to get funding, you have to build a team, all those things that any smart startup does. So, make sure that you understand that, and make sure that you understand the time and the money and the effort that's going to go into it when you make the decision to get started, because it's not always the easiest, but it's a lot of fun.
Great. Well, Lisa, I really appreciate you joining us today. And for folks who are looking to learn more, or maybe even schedule a demo of Swipe Red, you can go to buzz360.co. Link is available in the show notes. And if you learned something new today, maybe you've heard about relational organizing for the first time. If you did learn something new, please share this podcast with a friend or colleague. The mission, of course, with Startup Caucus is to grow our community and get these resources into the hands of more people as possible. And so when you share the podcast, it helps other people discover it. So with that, I want to say thank you, and we will see you next time on the Business of Politics show.